What's up guys, it's Savate from Combat Culture and we are back with another tier list. This video we are going to cover different martial arts and how well having those martial art background is going to help you transition over to Muay Thai. So scenario wise, what if you had a Shotokan background and you wanted to transition over to Muay Thai? Would it be a smooth transition or would you have to relearn a lot of new things? We'll find out in this video. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get things started first by going over the definitions for all the different grades here. So starting at S tier, basically anything that I rank in S means that you are going to have a great advantage transitioning over, so you can expect a very smooth transition. Anything that I rank in A, aside from adapting to the rule sets, some small subtle differences, it'll be pretty much a smooth transition. Just some adjustments you're gonna have to make. Anything that I rank a B means that there are probably a couple of things that does cross over, so you will have some advantages over someone who's just walking off of the street, but you still need to take some time to adjust. Anything that I rank a C is gonna be on the same level as someone who is fit coming in trying Muay Thai for the first time. So anything that's in the D row, I'm just not gonna rank. So there's really nothing that is gonna be worse than a C. So disregard the D, just ignore it altogether. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna cover is gonna be karate. And just like the last video, this is gonna be Shotokan Karate. I did mention, in the comments in the last video, part of the reason why I chose Shotokan as opposed to, one of the several other branches of karate is because that's the one I had the most exposure to. So that's why I chose Shotokan as opposed to, say, Goju Ryu. So Shotokan Karate, first and foremost, definitely has advantages over someone who's just coming off of the street with no martial arts background. I think the fact that they conceptually understand how to throw a punch, how to defend up against a punch, how to throw a kick, defend against kicks, and also sweeps as well, many of which are legal in Muay Thai, is going to be an advantage. Now, some of the drawbacks will be the execution of the kick. Fundamentally, it's just different how you throw a Shotokan kick as opposed to how you would throw a Muay Thai kick. That may take some time to relearn. And also, the stance in Shotokan is typically a lot more active than Muay Thai, and that could be a benefit or a drawback, really depending on what you make of it. I think there's certainly benefits to be nimble on your feet, be able to jump in and out, but I think there are certain parts of Muay Thai where it does also benefit you just to be more grounded. So again, it may hurt you or it may benefit you, kind of neutral on that, but because of all of that, I am gonna rank Shotokan as a solid B. Okay, so next up is gonna be Kyokushin Karate. So some of the advantages of Kyokushin Karate is, first and foremost, the stance. Kyokushin Karate typically is going to have a more square stance compared to Shotokan, which is a little bit more bladed. So that translates really well to Muay Thai, which traditionally has a very square stance. Also, another thing about Kyokushin Karate, when you spar in the pocket. You're very up close. And I think that translates really well to Muay Thai because oftentimes you do find yourself fighting in a pocket, and being comfortable in a pocket definitely is going to be an advantage for you. And also training to absorb blows and not being afraid of getting hit. That's a big part of Kyokushin Karate, and that's another thing that translates really well to Muay Thai. Now obviously the kicks all translate really well to Muay Thai. So what are some of the drawbacks? Now, I think one of the big drawbacks is when you spar, you're not allowed to punch the head. You can kick the head, but you can't punch the head. So you may have to get used to defending against punches to the head. And that could, potentially be a pretty big drawback if you've been doing Kyokushin for quite some time and you're really used to defending against body shots and kicks and all the sort, and not so much blocking incoming punches. That's something that could potentially take some time for you to adjust to. And also sweeps and foot trips aren't as common in Kyokushin Karate. I think there may be some instances where you can kick your opponent when they're kicking you, or you can push with one hand, but I think traditional foot trips and sweeps aren't a big part of Kyokushin Karate. Now, with all that said, I still think someone coming from Kyokushin Karate is going to have a relatively smooth transition. I mean, there's going to be a couple things you'll have to retrain, like for example, getting more comfortable defending against punches to the head and throwing punches to the head when you're sparring. But I think there's a lot that you're bringing to the table, namely a lot of the strikes you're doing, the kicks, being very comfortable and having that confidence to be fighting inside of the pocket and be able to take the strikes that are coming your way. All those really are going to go a long way in terms of helping you transition and giving you an advantage over somebody who's coming in green. So moving on along is going to be Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Now, I think Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is an S tier when it comes to martial arts that will complement your Muay Thai if you're looking to do MMA. But if you're coming from a jiu-jitsu background, there's not really a lot that's going to carry over. I mean, there is some grappling while you're on your feet and there are some takedowns, but not a whole lot that translate to Muay Thai. Even if you do no-gi, you might have a slight advantage when it comes to actual clinching in terms of hand placement and just spatial awareness, but I think, by and large, someone who's done jiu-jitsu for a while coming into Muay Thai it's going to be a C, just because you're not coming with any huge advantages. That's going to help you transition better than, somebody coming in without any experience in Muay Thai. Okay, so next is going to be kickboxing, and for the purpose of this tier list, kickboxing is going to be K1 style kickboxing, Japanese kickboxing, and that one is going to be a solid S. I mean, there are some things you'll have to relearn, well, not relearn. There's going to be some things you're going to have to learn that you don't learn in kickboxing, namely clinching and throwing elbows. But aside from that, everything else is going to transition over perfectly. That's part of the reason why you see so many Muay Thai fighters transition over to kickboxing and vice versa. And I think one of the big advantages of coming in with a kickboxing background is that you've likely trained pretty extensively with your hands and also putting a lot of combos together. And I think all those things will definitely give you an advantage when you transition over to Muay Thai. Okay, and the next one is going to be Aikido. So I see Aikido the same way I see Jiu Jitsu. There's not really a whole lot that you're going to be able to bring from your Aikido background that's going to help transition over to Muay Thai. So because of that, I'm going to rank Aikido as a C. So the next thing we're going to cover is Tai Chi. And in my last video, when I talked about Tai Chi, it was more focused on the fitness version of Tai Chi that you see a lot of folks doing in the park. And Tai Chi does have a martial arts branch to it as well. It's called Taigekun, which is the fist of Tai Chi, or Tai Chi fist, depending on how you translate it. The TLDR is that there is a form of Tai Chi that is a martial art. Now, having said that, does that translate over to Muay Thai, or will it help you transition over to Muay Thai or give you an advantage transitioning to Muay Thai? I think if you compare it with, some of the arts that's on the list already, for example, karate or BJJ or Aikido, I think I'm gonna have to rank it as a C, just because there's not a whole lot that you're gonna bring over from Tai Chi, the form that's a martial art, that is gonna benefit you if you decide to transition over to Muay Thai. Not any more than Jiu Jitsu or Aikido. Right, so Tai Chi, I'm gonna rank it as a C. Okay, so the next one we're gonna cover is Savate. So I think some of the advantages of coming in with Savate is that you train a lot of hands, so a fair amount of boxing, which is obviously going to be beneficial, and you're also very familiar with the concept of throwing kicks and how to throw kicks. And there's also sweeps as well. So those are all elements that's going to help you bridge that gap when you transition over to Muay Thai. So the biggest drawback, in my opinion, about Savate is, even though it's a martial art that is focused on kicking, it's the execution of the kick, because in Savate you use your foot rather than your shin. And you're gonna have to relearn that. And I think that's a hard thing to relearn, having to relearn the distancing and also the angles and, really how to throw the kick to hit with your shin rather than your foot, because you're also not gonna be wearing the special shoes that they wear in Savate. You're gonna be doing things barefoot. So that is a pretty big transition. That aside, some things that you'll have to relearn obviously is gonna be how to throw elbows, knees, and clinching, right? Those are all really big things. But I think Savate has enough that you will, see a pretty smooth transition after you get over the big hump of learning how to kick with your shin rather than your foot. And because of that, I'm gonna give it an A. I think the fact that at its core is a kicking art and also there is boxing involved, helps with the transition over. Okay, so the next one we're going to cover is going to be Sanda. So I think aesthetically there are a lot of similarities between Sanda and Muay Thai. The biggest difference is obviously is going to be in the rule set. And in Sanda, takedown is a huge component, not only in practice but also in scoring as well. And because of that, usually when a Sanda practitioner gets close, rather than throwing an elbow or going for a clinch or knee, they're looking for a takedown because those score pretty high. Not to say that they don't throw elbows or knees, but they're likely going to prioritize a takedown rather than going for an elbow or a knee or a clinch. That is probably the biggest difference I can think of. And because of that, I think it's going to be a relatively smooth transition. If anything, you know, you're going to be going into Muay Thai with the Sanda background, not being able to do your takedowns, but a lot of the strikes you're throwing are going to be very similar. So because of that, I am going to rank Sanda as an S. I don't think there's going to be too many road bumps for someone who's done Sanda to transition over to Muay Thai, aside from, you know, the limitations of not being able to go for takedowns and, you know, resorting to other things such as clinching, throwing elbows, knees, and all this stuff. So the next one's going to be Lethwei. Now, Lethwei has probably the most similarities to Muay Thai out of all the arts that we're covering today, being that they come from a common lineage way in the past. The biggest difference, you know, between Lethwei and Muay Thai, again, like Sanda, it's going to be the rule set. Headbutts being the big one. And also in competition, how you win, how you score. But that aside, in terms of the actual execution of the sport, aside from not being able to throw headbutts, a lot of what you're going to do in Lethwei is going to be very similar to Muay Thai, and it's going to transition over very smoothly. And because of that, Lethwei is going to be a solid S. So the next one we're going to cover is Wing Chun. In my previous video, I mentioned that one of the advantages of Wing Chun is to be able to translate sticky hands to hand fighting. When it comes to clinching, hand positioning, being able to set up elbows or keeping your opponent busy up top. That aside, I can't really think of too many other benefits that can carry over that will give you an advantage when transitioning over to Muay Thai. So that being said, Wing Chun, I'm going to grade it as a C. So next one we're going to cover is going to be Judo. And I look at Judo the same way I look at BJJ. I think it's an excellent complement to Muay Thai if you're looking to do MMA. The main advantages I think you can carry over from Judo is that you have a really strong base, you have really good spatial awareness, and are likely going to be very hard to sweep and take down. But that aside, there's not a whole lot of other advantages I can think of that you can, you know, pivot over to Muay Thai. When it comes to the takedown itself offensively, a lot of them you can't do in Muay Thai. So having said that, Judo is going to be a C. So the next one we're going to cover is going to be Freestyle Wrestling. I think Freestyle Wrestling has advantages over Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and Judo because you're not training with a gi on. So when it comes to the grappling, the hand fighting, a lot of that is going to transfer over more naturally than the other two. Now, one thing that hurts wrestling, aside from the fact that there's no striking component at all, is that freestyle wrestlers typically have a lower stance, and that is because they have to defend against takedowns to the legs. That could be a pretty big adjustment for a wrestler to make when they're coming over to Muay Thai, just not having that really low center of gravity stance. But that aside, I think the grappling component of freestyle wrestling is enough to, in my opinion, bump it up to a B, just because clinching is a huge aspect of Muay Thai, and I think a lot of what you train in wrestling in terms of head control can transfer over to Muay Thai clinching. So the next one on the list is Greco-Roman Wrestling, and you know, if you're confused between freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman Wrestling, the dummy version of explaining the difference is that freestyle wrestling you can attack the legs, Greco-Roman Wrestling is waist up. So pretty much all the same benefits as freestyle wrestling, with the added benefit that their stance is generally not as low, but I don't think that's enough to bump it up to an A. I would say if anything it's a B+, because at the end of the day it's still missing the striking component. A Greco-Roman wrestler may have an easier path in terms of transitioning to the stance than a freestyle wrestler, but not so much that it's going to be a night and day difference. So because of that, Greco-Roman Wrestling I'm going to put as a B. So next one we're going to cover is going to be Western boxing. And in my previous video, I gave it an S tier ranking. And that was because when you take boxing and you cross-train that with Muay Thai, what you're adding to your Muay Thai game is likely better hand combinations, being able to defend against boxing more effectively, and also a different look at how to utilize your footwork. I think a lot of that still applies when a boxer is looking to transition over to Muay Thai, namely having really put together hands, good head movement, and also really good footwork. So the biggest hurdle a boxer is going to have to face is relearning how they move around the ring and relearning how they stand to help better defend against some of the strikes that come with Muay Thai, and obviously learning how to clinch. Sure, they have the advantage of really knowing how to use their hands and also defending against it, but that's just one component of Muay Thai. And I think because how a boxer stands and how they move around is a very fundamental part of their training as a boxer, having to relearn all of that could potentially take some time. And because of that, I am gonna say boxing is gonna be a B. So next one is gonna be Capoeira. When I think of Capoeira, there's not a whole lot that I can think of that is really going to be an advantage if you're looking to transition over to Muay Thai. The good thing is that there's not a whole lot that you have to relearn, but also there's not going to be a whole lot that you can bring over that's going to give you an advantage to help you learn faster. So because of that, Capoeira, I'm going to have to give a C. So next up is Tae Kwon Do. So obviously the benefits of Tae Kwon Do is that you understand the mechanics of throwing a kick, and chances are you have built up some of the muscles you need to throw kicks effectively. Now, the execution of the kick is different, just like the execution of the kick in Savate and Shotokan Karate. And also like karate, your stance is going to be very different when you transition over to Muay Thai. Having said that, I still think there's enough advantages where you have a leg up over someone who has no background at all, but not enough where I'm going to rank it any higher than a B. So the next one we're going to cover is going to be Wushu, and Wushu is the more performative form of traditional Kung Fu. And when I think of Wushu, the main advantage that comes to mind is that anyone that does Wushu likely has built up a lot of the same muscle groups that could benefit you when you're transferring over to Muay Thai. But I don't think that's going to be enough for me to rank it higher than a C. So that's where Wushu's going to go. So next one we're going to cover is traditional Kung Fu. So there's several forms of Kung Fu, and depending on which form you practice, there may be a different focus. Some focus primarily on grappling. There are some that focus more on hand strikes, some that more on leg strikes. So depending on which one you're coming from, it'll give you an advantage in that area of Muay Thai. And because of that, I am going to rank traditional Kung Fu at B, really based on the fact that Sanda is a hybrid of different forms of Kung Fu that can be applied on a more practical, competitive level. So next one we're going to cover is Sumo. Some of the benefits of doing Sumo is that you have a really strong foundation, you are grounded, and you have a good center of gravity. You are likely very comfortable grappling, and you'll likely be able to pick up hand fighting relatively easy. Having said that, I don't think those things are enough to give you a big advantage if you're looking to transfer over to Muay Thai. So Sumo, while it has some benefits, is not going to be ranked any higher than a C. So last one we're going to cover today is going to be Sambo. And Sambo really is a blend of wrestling, judo, and striking. So obviously you're going to have a lot of advantages if you're transitioning over to Muay Thai because you're comfortable striking and you're comfortable grappling. I would say the only drawback of Sambo transitioning over to Muay Thai is that it does lean more on the grappling aspect rather than the striking aspect. I think a Sambo practitioner has good striking, but if you match them up against someone who does primarily Muay Thai kickboxing or boxing or any other striking art, they might not fare as well as the person that does the striking art, just because what they do is really a jack of all trades. So that may be, I wouldn't even call it a drawback, but that is something that they will have to, lean in a little more on in terms of developing. But having said that, I still think that Sambo is strong enough to be at an A, just because a lot of what you train in Sambo is going to transition over really well. You're just going to have to pivot over more on the striking side as opposed to the grappling side. Alright guys, so that's it for the tier list of martial arts that transition over into Muay Thai. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think, whether you agree, whether you disagree, and also if there's other things you want us to cover, drop a comment below. We'll be back with more videos. Until then, keep training, stay safe, and be healthy. We'll see you guys in the next one.